Nightmare walking, psychopath talking, king of the jungle, just a vampire stalking. Nightmare walking.
So, what's going on today, guys? It's your boy Dragon Master at you again today with another face paint style that I'll be debuting across several other videos. This one is called Paint. But enough about the face paint. That's not why you guys are. Um, it's not why you guys watch the videos on this channel. So, as we all know, today is February 5th. Today is the official day that the new ban list takes effect, where Monster Reborn is no longer on the ban list, Solemn Judgment is no longer on the ban list, but cards like Maxi, Gofu, Dandelion, and stuff like that have been hit on the ban list. The last Spiral card is now limited down to 1. Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning is now an unlimited card. And, you know, all this other wonderful shit that comes with the new ban list. And before I really get started, I haven't been on it here since probably about noon, but even then it still hadn't been updated. I do have to say that whoever is running the show for Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro, The Dawn of a New Era, get your shit in order. Because, you know, today's the day. Today's the day the new ban list takes effect, but you haven't updated the ban list yet for the fucking game, and it's just complete and utter bullshit. You know, we want to be able to play with cards like Monster Reborn now that it's no longer on the fucking ban list. But we can't because it's still fucking banned on the game. So get your shit in order and update the ban list for the game, please. I know you guys are busy, but still, this is bullshit. That out of the way. So, how do I want to start this off? Really, what I'm finding interesting is all these discussions right now about the ban list, the new cards that have hit on the ban list. And of course, this has been going on for about the week since we've gotten the drop for what cards are going to be hit for the ban list for the limited, the semi-limited, and unlimited and shit like that. But no one's really talked about what to expect moving forward now. I touched on it a little bit in my last video. I'm going to touch on it just a little bit more in this video. So, as we all know, the and I still can't get over this either. The one deck that took the biggest hit, because we can all agree that even though Spirals have taken their final hit with their key card, you know, I think we can all agree that even though the last Spiral card is now down to 1, and that would of course be Spiral Resort, I think we can still safely say that, well, actually unsafely say, that the deck is still very problematic for a lot of people who don't play that deck. Is it consistent? Yes. Is it very main deck power oriented? Yes. It's what Konami has alleged that they want from this new meta. However, it's still a very problematic deck for a lot of us, like I said, who don't play the deck. I am one of them. As you guys know, Dragon Master, I deal with straight up dragon decks. I'll even play with the Buster Blader deck because, you know, it's Buster Blader. It has to do with dragons. He draws power from dragons. So what do I really expect to see moving forward now with these cards being hit. As I said in the last video, I do look for the Spiral deck to just literally start falling to the wayside, and you know, making room for other decks to make their way into competitive scene. Sorry about that. I was messaging my girlfriend. She's trying to call me, and clearly I'm making a video. So, but so like I said, I do eventually look for the Spiral deck to die off completely, but of course, because they didn't get hit as hard as Zodiac did to make them completely die off overnight, the Spiral deck dying down is going to gradually happen over time. I am a little surprised, but also I'm not really surprised with the fact Maxx C got banned, because basically it's, either you screw your opponent or your opponent screws you. And, I don't really understand why Konami would take that card from 1 to being completely banned, because it's still a very good out, especially if you're playing a Spiral deck, which is very, tends to be very special summon centered. Your opponent's got to get off those key combos, and by playing Maxx C, you're basically telling your opponent, okay, if you continue with the combos, I'm going to draw a shit ton of cards, and the only way to stop me is to not play your combos. So, I'm still a little confused as to why that card got banned, but at the same time, it's not a complete shock to me either, because it's a double-edged sword. But on to the real thing now. So, the biggest deck, the deck that got hit the hardest on this list, is, of course, Pendulum Magicians. And I've never played the deck. I've played against the deck several times. I know it's a very good deck. It's not a deck for me because it doesn't fit my style. Which is why I tend to be centered more around dragon decks, because those decks are my style regardless of what kind of dragon deck or dragon-based deck it is. Because dragons are really all about coming at your opponent hard, fast, and just, bringing that fire, literally. So that's why I don't play with many other decks outside of what I'm comfortable with and what I know, because there's really no decks out there aside from dragon and dragon-based decks that fit my style. But with Pendulum Magicians being hit the way they did, with Skulker Bat Joker being completely banned, and Double Iris being banned, I don't look for this deck to completely die off. I have played against this deck very recently. Matter of fact, I think it was just yesterday or the day before. I was playing on Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Dawn of the New Era, and I was playing with the no ban list setting because I was running Monster Reborn. I don't have it in there right now because I want to test this deck against popular decks right now in the competitive scene. But regardless, the deck works fine. And one deck that I came across, now I don't know if he just played no ban list because he wanted to try the deck against really every card that you can put in your deck outside of a ban list. But he was playing a variation of Pendulum Magician, and again, I talked about this in the last video. It was a Pendulum Magician Odd Eyes deck. And I've actually found that very interesting because that is a deck that I've often thought about seeing. I've never really said I wanted to see it, though. But it's helping in two manners here. It's helping the Pendulum Magician deck from completely dying off, but it's also helping the Odd Eyes engine make a comeback into the competitive scene. Don't get it twisted. This is still a very powerful deck. This variation of an Odd Eyes, Pendulum Magician, whatever you want to say it's a variation of, is a very, to me, it's a very competitive deck, and it's a very challenging deck. I run, as you all know, Galaxies. Galaxy Eyes, Blue Eyes. I'm working on perfecting my Galaxy Photon deck, Galaxy Cypher deck. That's my main deck of choice is my Galaxies. And even with the variation I was running before I went back to a Galaxy Blue Eyes engine, just gave you guys a little bit more information on the deck before I changed around a few cards in it. I was playing with the engine that I was initially starting off with for link summoning, for the link mechanic, and it was still pumping out everything I needed. And I came across that deck again shortly after. I had revised the deck on the Dawn of a New Era, and my deck is still doing pretty fucking good. I don't win every duel. I'm not going to sit here and say that I do. I've lost, a handful of duels with this deck, but I've won, 20 plus duels with this deck, both in and outside of a no ban list restriction. So, as I'm playing this deck, he's outing almost everything that I throw down. I had Infinity out. He outed it within a couple of turns. I pulled out number 68, and he outed it pretty quickly. I pulled out number 95. He outed it pretty quickly. But ultimately, I did win the duel. He took out some of my best monsters. And make no mistake about it, number 68 is one of my best monsters for this deck. But he took out some of my best monsters, and I was still able to just keep coming back and kick his ass, and just really bring the fire with this deck. So I'm very happy with the deck that I'm running now. I do look forward to playing this deck at the regional tournament coming up. But where I'm getting at with this is I don't look for Pendulum Magicians to die out completely. I look for new variations of the deck to make a comeback. We could see a Pendulum Magician, Dark Magician deck, for example. Might not seem the most feasible, but it's definitely probable. The Pendulum Magician Odd Eyes build. I expect to see more of those surface now. Maybe even if someone could incorporate the Supreme King Dragon engine in with the Pendulum Magician, which me and a friend of mine talked about that. And those two engines, he's looked into it a lot more than I have. And those two engines actually work very well together, which it still surprises me why there's not really a lot of, first off, Supreme King Dragon decks that are played, but let alone a Supreme King Dragon Pendulum Magician deck that is played either. And I really expect to see some different variations of Pendulum Magician now, because, as I said, I don't look for them to completely die off and fall to the wayside, as I'm expecting Spirals to do over the course of the next few months, or like Zodiac did overnight, and like almost how the Dino deck did when the Earth-True King got completely banned and Miscellaneous Source got dropped to 1. Those decks are still very much relevant. They're still very heavily played. And really it comes down to a video that I did quite a few months ago, stating that as long as you're doing the research and you're finding alternatives to certain cards that are now being hit at some level on the ban list, you can still make the deck very much relevant. And the people have definitely proven that with the Dino deck. Now, not everyone runs the same variant of the Dino deck, but the Dino decks are still very much alive. Matter of fact, I think they just recently got a Link monster for Dinos, even though the Dino deck doesn't really need to rely on the extra deck that much. If it wasn't recently that they got it, they should be getting it very soon. This is turning into a 60-minute video, and I didn't want to keep you guys very long. And also, like I stated in the last video, I do expect to see more Galaxy decks come out. I expect to see more Blue Eyes decks being played and different variations of it, especially with Chaos Max. Even more so with Shining Dragon. I expect to see a lot more of that. I expect to see, more Red Eyes, more Odd Eyes. I expect to see Dark Magician at some level. And even then, back to a dragon-based deck itself, I look for Buster Blader decks to kind of just bust out onto the scene and just completely help turn the meta upside down. My same friend who duels with a Dino deck, he recently posted on Facebook that it's time for the dinosaurs and the galaxies to take over and basically reshape the meta. Do I agree with that? Yes, because that has been my goal as far as dragon decks are concerned. I want to bring faith back into the galaxy decks, which it seems to be happening a lot more now. I'm seeing a lot more of them surface for both competitive and for fun play. And he works on dinosaurs. Now, dinos are already a pretty meta deck. It's a pretty standard deck, pretty popular fucking deck. He doesn't want... He's like me. He doesn't use this pre-formula map out to build his deck. He builds it from scratch. He comes up with the combos as he's building the deck, much like I do. Now, yes, I do build my decks to a certain recipe setting to a degree, but I find a way to come up with combos that no one really, thinks of doing. Like in the deck I run now, I don't run Card of Consonance in this deck at all for my white stones. I don't. I have enough ability in this deck to get those cards into the graveyard to utilize their effects that I don't need Card of Consonance. The only draw power in this deck is 3 trade-in and hand destruction. That's it. That's all I run. I don't run hand traps. Personally, I can't stand fucking hand traps. But just with some of the combos that I have, I'm able to get those cards out of the way pretty easily. Whether I'm using number 95's effect, Galaxy Soldier's effect, or another card that I use to dump monsters into my graveyard, but also summon into infinity. And unfortunately, like I said, I'm not giving you guys a whole lot of information on this deck because I want the deck to be a surprise for the tournament. Whether the deck does, fantastic with an 8-0 or a 7-1, or even maybe at the very least a 6-2 rating. Even if I break even, if it's even 4-4, or if it does completely shitty. Oh, maybe not if it does shitty, but I just want to show people that the Galaxy decks are not dead. I would love to be able to at least break even with a 4-4 rating, but I would love to, just so ever inch past that to maybe a 5-3 6.3 or 6.2, 7.1, or the best rating you can get, which is an 8.0. And I'm not going to be satisfied until I achieve my goal with any dragon deck that I use. And he's the same way with his deck. He wants his recipe to become meta. His recipe to become the most popular Dino recipe in the frickin' game. Just like I'd like for my Galaxy recipe to become not only meta, but to become the go-to recipe. But keep in mind, I also work on my deck a lot. So even if it does become the go-to recipe, I can change it up like that and pull something completely out of left field like I'm going to with this deck. Especially since no one's ever thought of running a Galaxy deck with this particular card. And it still blows my fucking mind as to why not, but it is what it is. And we're now officially around the 21-minute mark, so I'm not going to keep you guys any further. So as always, like, subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments down below on what you think about the ban list, what you expect to see coming out very soon. What decks you guys are running right now. I'm always looking forward to seeing that. There will be a deck profile video for my new Galaxy deck. Excuse me. After the tournament. But, you know, leave your comments down here. Let me know what deck you'd like to see me build. I don't have a whole lot of money right now, so my options are a little limited. But I do promise that I will build the decks at some point in the future. Also, feel free to follow me on Facebook and Twitter as well at DragonMaster90. I'll leave a leave that same tag in the description as always. And until next time, guys, Dragon Master signing out. Peace.
Nightmare walking.